Hi, everybody. I'm Paul Harb. I'm Vice President of Solutions and Performance Engineering at Nutanix. Welcome to the Nutanix CXO Pulse. Let's do this. All right. The first question says, how can CIOs simplify cloud management? Independent research shows that 86% of organizations are actually using two or more public cloud infrastructure providers. So half of the IT executives in that study also said that their multiple cloud environments aren't fully interoperable. At Nutanix, we feel that a hybrid multi-cloud that doesn't offer full interoperability isn't a true hybrid multi-cloud. So in order to have a successful hybrid multi-cloud solution, it has to have a common operating model across all your clouds, on premises and at the edge environments. So if you have a common operating model, then you have the same management plane, the same user experience, the same API across all your clouds. That means you're using the same code for self-service and automation no matter where it's running. You also have the same processes, the same skill sets, and that means you have a single team to manage all of your cloud infrastructure, whether it's running in the public cloud, on-prem, or at the edge. All right, so second question on cost optimization. Balancing cloud benefits with cost optimization. Traditionally, we've used spreadsheets for years to manage costs in our data centers, but spreadsheets aren't enough for multi-cloud cost management because it's hard to forecast and track the metering in the public cloud. You also can't rely on the various cost management tools that may be available from your cloud providers because each cloud has their own reporting system and their own data, and it's spread out all over your different clouds. So that's too complex as well. And then to make matters worse, you still have infrastructure with fixed costs that you buy on CapEx or OpEx basis. So how do you pull all of these costs together in one place? And so what you really need is a single pane of glass to manage metered and fixed costs. And that pane of glass really has three sort of characteristics to look for. First, it needs to have visibility to see costs across on-prem public cloud and edge environments in one place. Second, it needs to be able to optimize. That will notify your admins when end users have over-allocated CPU and RAM. And then the last bit is you need better controls. Things like quota management, show back and charge back. These controls really help you tie your team's budget to the cloud spend that they have so that they're not just spending money without having any impact or any consequence. How should CIOs choose the right cloud provider? I'll say this, I've seen a lot of companies make strategic decisions about a cloud provider, and they've run into significant problems. I'll give you an example. There's a very large company, a bank in the US, and it's one of my customers, actually. They purchased $800 million of cloud credits from AWS and Azure, only to find out that after 18 months, they hadn't migrated one workload. It didn't work because they're a bank and AVD didn't have the right security features that they needed, so they wouldn't be compliant if they moved their desktops to AVD. Other things to consider are licensing costs, which might be more favorable in one cloud versus another. So ultimately, you have to look at the requirements of each workload separately and decide what cloud provider meets those requirements. And this question, the fourth one, how can CIOs design a future-proof cloud strategy? In my mind, when I think about it, future-proofing your cloud strategy is really more about vendor lock-in. That would be the number one tactic that I would be focusing on. So Nutanix has always been on a mission to provide freedom of choice for our customers. We offer you choice of your hardware vendor, choice of your hypervisor, choice of your Kubernetes distribution, and choice of your public cloud provider. All this choice prevents lock-in. And while we offer you all this freedom to choose, we do so by providing you a single platform that you can use everywhere, on-prem, at the edge, and in the public cloud. And you have the same operating model no matter where it runs. Having freedom of choice prevents lock-in and gives you more flexibility to be able to move into one cloud and back out without too much difficulty. Woo! All right. So the first question says, essential steps in developing an effective cloud strategy. So actually there's an increased need to be more agile because everything is moving faster than it ever has. We have to actually ask ourselves, how do I retain my flexibility as things change? And really, lock-in is a big problem, and it's often caused by complexity, but it's also caused sometimes by vendors who restrict our choices and they make it harder to leave. And it's not just about spinning workloads up or spinning them down to save money. That's not what I mean by the flexibility. It's also about moving data and applications in and out easily. When you're developing your cloud strategy, one thing I recommend is start with your exit strategy, not your adoption and migration strategy. Next question. All right, best practices for CIOs to ensure robust cloud security. Actually, funny that my team has just developed, we just finished it. It's a new security and compliance guide, and it talks about running a hybrid multi-cloud platform where you have some infrastructure running in your data center and some running in the public cloud like AWS or Azure. So this topic is something we're discussing now with a lot of our clients. One thing that's really top of mind when we talk about it is the idea of shared responsibility models. And what I mean by this is traditionally, when you ran all your infrastructure on premise, you were required to support all the hardware and software, and you owned the entire security posture. But all of a sudden, you're now going to the public cloud. When you go to the public cloud, your cloud provider will have a shared responsibility model that defines distinct roles that they're going to provide and responsibilities that the customer has to provide. So as you switch from owning the entire problem to a shared responsibility model, it's a lot harder to manage. So this introduces a lot of risk to organizations, and I suggest that you involve your Chief Information Security Office to elevate awareness about this risk because it's often forgotten about. Okay, common pitfalls CIOs face during cloud migrations. This is a good one because there's a lot of misnomers about this. To do it right means architecting your apps so they're elastic and so that they expand and contract automatically based on demand. Those who have tried to lift and shift their workloads without re-architecting them, they've quickly realized that it's not cost effective. The second pitfall is that most people underestimate networking, which is not only a lot more complicated, but there's also a lot more risk. Your ingress and egress costs are almost always underestimated or not factored in at all. So not re-architecting your apps and underestimating your network leads to significant unpredictable costs. And that's really the biggest problem that CIOs face during cloud migrations. All right, my last question. Is my organization using the right cloud model? I think what CIOs should be looking for, and they may not know how to get it, is the ability to find one platform to run all of their apps and data anywhere. Research shows that the main driver for choosing your cloud provider is flexibility to run solutions across public and private clouds. And often the flexibility is needed because of data gravity, which means that it's harder to move your data and it's easier to move your apps because data is large, it's heavy, and it needs to be secure. So after flexibility, the research we have also shows that performance, security, and data resilience are also top drivers of workload placement. But what's interesting is that last among these is actually cost. So what that's saying is organizations need things like flexibility, performance, and security. These needs come first. And though cost is still important, it's not as important as the other factors in choosing which cloud to use. Thank you for tuning in to Nutanix CXO Pulse. I hope you captured some actionable takeaways to shape your IT and cloud strategy. Please stay tuned for the next episode where we'll be answering top questions on digital transformation. Visit Nutanix.com/CXO for more content.